there was a doctor back in the early 1900s that went mad and killed and ate his wife and kids and some of his patients. And today I have a very, very fun video, but before we get into that, I need to clarify, no, I'm not naked. It's a tank top. My favorite tank top, actually, objectively. And this cute little necklace that I got for $2 at a thrift store or antique store. Something of the sort. So today, I'm going to be doing something that I've really been wanting to do, which is reading you guys scary stories from Reddit. I apologize for any noise you hear in the background. It is like 6:30 in the morning and my mom just got home from a midnight shift, so I'm not just gonna read you guys scary stories because I feel like that's just too boring. Like, I'm just gonna sit here. I'm reading scary stories while also doing my full makeup routine. No, I don't have anywhere to go. I've wanted to do this for a little bit now, but I've kind of held back because I usually film at like 3 in the morning. So I'm like, why would I do my full makeup routine if I'm just gonna wash off and go to sleep? You know what I mean? But now I feel like it's pretty early in the day. I'm gonna start my day. I might as well do my little routine for you guys while we read some scary stories. Now, these aren't just any scary stories because I have a deep fascination with, I'm gonna put the word on the screen. I don't think that it's super out there to think that like there are other creatures in the world that maybe we don't have a full grasp on, you know what I mean? I just think that the world is really expansive, and I don't think that it's out of the question that there are some creatures that we as humans don't fully have a grasp on, you know? So I don't think it's out of the question that these are 100% real. I've actually had like a good few paranormal experiences myself. If you guys would want a video on that, maybe, that just for a little bit. It's getting put on, baby. Oh yeah, let's go. Let's go, let's go. I think I mentioned this in my last video that I used to use this toner, but the spray thing broke off, and you guys are probably wondering, like, what do you mean spray thing? This is what I mean. This used to spray. And now I just drip it into my hand. I also want to say that I haven't read these either. I just kind of picked out the ones I like very, very briefly skimmed. And by skimmed, I mean I literally looked at like the first sentence and the last sentence. So I'm gonna be just as surprised as you guys are. Okay, so this first one was posted, I think, in r/paranormal, and it's this guy that his account got deleted, but he said, have you ever had a skinwalker encounter? I don't think I've even ever shown this. I don't live anywhere near a Navajo reservations.
Likely there are Navajo residents near you. The Navajo Nation is in the southwestern United States, mainly in Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah. Since you're in...
Why is it talking to me? No Navajo residents. No Navajo reservations near me. This is a good time to say that I am dyslexic, so I've lived all around Florida my whole life. Also, I'm trying to fix my posture. Posture check, posture check. This person is named Lindsay2983. And this is what they said. This was from a year ago. Shared this story before. I have a story. It isn't mine, but it happened to my uncle. He used to tell this story when we went camping, and it scared the lights out of me every time I heard it. I've never heard that saying before. We live in Utah, and my Uncle Mark went on a mission at 19. They sent him to an Indian reservation in Arizona. They paired him up with a companion named Carl. Shout out Carl Gallagher. When they first got there, there was a huge rift with the locals on the reservation, with them being there. They didn't want my uncle and Carl staying on the reservation grounds. Eventually, they came to a compromise that they would stay on the outskirts in a trailer. The reservation wasn't very big and was located next to a heavily wooded area. The first night they were trying to sleep when all of a sudden their trailer started to shake violently back and forth. Startled and not sure what was happening, they climbed under the table for cover. Mark could distinctly hear someone pushing it from both sides of the trailer, like a group of people. After about 5 minutes, it stopped. 5 minutes is a really long time, I feel. That next day, they made rounds on the reservation and were talking to the locals. Carl made a comment to one of the families that their trailer was shaking that night before. The family got very quiet and told them they had to leave. They thought it was strange, but didn't think much of it. The next night it happened again. They awoke to their trailer shaking back and forth. Again, they climbed under the table until it stopped. This went on for 2 more nights. Anytime they tried to talk to anybody about it, they got quiet and told them to leave. Mark started thinking that due to the tension of their arrival, the locals were doing this to scare them off the reservation. First of all, you're a dumbass. They then go into a convenience store and they were talking together about how frustrated they were with the situation. The clerk overheard and said they can't talk about it, it's forbidden. Confused, they ask him, can't talk about what? The guy continues to tell them about the creatures this video is about. He says they are evil demons that were once Native American witches. If they talk about it, the creatures will come for their souls. They just walked out of there baffled. They thought it was another scare tactic. This just gives Caucasian, this gives white ignorance. Not having any fucking respect for what the locals are telling you. Thinking they lie in your face. Why are you assuming that they're lying? Why is that your first thought? That night, when the shaking started again, my uncle decided to be brave and confront them. This man is about to get killed. Honestly, I don't know how this guy's gonna live through this story, but he went to the trailer door, flew it open, and yelled, "Hey." When he did, he saw 3 animals run off. 2 were wolves, and 1 was a bear, but they looked strange, almost with human features. Who's surprised? As he watched them run towards the trees, all 3 stood up on 2 legs and walked slowly towards the trees, making a human cackling laugh. They're making fun of you. That's crazy. It scared him so bad that they called their mission president the next morning and asked to be moved. They were relocated that day. For a year, nothing happened. One day, they announced that Carl was being relocated to another city and Mark was getting a new companion, Jimmy. Rest in peace, Carl. They had to drive for about an hour to pick up Jimmy at the airport. The road they traveled went through the boundaries of the reservation. Okay, I see how this is coming back. They arrived at about 8 p.m. and met Jimmy, and they go to leave. The mission president tells Jimmy, "We are driving through a dangerous area at night, so we can't make any stops. If you need to use the restroom, you need to use it now." Jimmy says, "I'm fine." The mission president gets serious enough to freak even Mark out. "I'm not kidding, go do your business." Jimmy was insisting he was fine, so they hit the road. About 30 minutes into the drive, they were going through the area of the reservation boundaries. Jimmy started complaining that he needed to pee badly. I hate this dude. I actually think I hate this man because, bro, this is why I hate men. I told you 12 times, do it before we get on the fucking road. You said, "Bitch, I'm fine, bitch, I'm fine, bitch, I'm fine." Now look at you. Needing to piss your life out. And what's gonna happen? You're gonna get eaten. You're gonna get eaten. Now who's the idiot? Right. Jimmy is not surviving. The mission president says, "We can't stop here. You have to hold it." Jimmy keeps going on, "I really can't hold it." So the mission president stops the car and says, "Okay, but you will do your business next to the door, and if I say get into the car, you better get into the car fast." This man knows what he's talking about. With a look of confusion, Jimmy says, "All right," opens the door and starts to do his business. In about 5 seconds, the mission president says nothing and just yanks Jimmy into the car and floors it. Yep. And he probably got his ween out too. And that's the worst part. And that's why you should have fucking peed at the airport. Jimmy and Mark start freaking out, asking what's going on. The mission president says nothing and just increases his speed. All of a sudden, Mark sees something next to the car on his right. A giant wolf-looking man was running on 2 feet next to the car. Mark looked at the speedometer. They were going over 60 miles an hour and still increasing. The wolf creature kept right next to the car for about 10 minutes until it finally took off into the trees. Shaking, Jimmy gets out of the car when they arrive. They didn't speak through the whole ordeal. And says, "What did I just see?" The mission president says, "Next time I tell you to take care of your business, you take care of your business." This mission president knows what they're doing. I guess he starting off strong with a very long story, I will say. I don't think any of these are that long. Well, I think there's a few that are kind of long, but I don't know if they're that long, which is okay for me because I am dyslexic up here. My sister-in-law always has weird stuff happening at her farm. There's been a lot of death there in the last what? This motherfucker never finished their sentence. One night, she was watching TV in the living room, and she saw something walk by her window. This one doesn't have great grammar. Now, the bottom of the window is 6 feet off the ground, and the chest of this creature was near the top of this big window, so it had to be close to 9 feet. God damn. Good lord. The next day, she went out to see if there was anything, and there was a bunch of broken branches where she saw it walk. She described it very tall and white with a weird walk to it. Sounds like someone I know. She said it looked like a creature she's seen before at the beach that walked out of the bush and walked like it was possessed. That's actually so scary. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's Metis. I don't know if it's Metis or Metis or Metis. Metis. I don't know. She lives by a few reservations. The lake she saw it at was also on native land. In a small town 10 minutes from her house, there was a doctor back in the early 1900s that went mad and killed and ate his wife and kids and some of his patients. And people say he turned into we'll say Wendy. Honestly, I don't have any notes on that one other than that was difficult to read. The thing that she said that she just saw it walking out of a bush on the beach is actually so scary. Although it's a little confusing because I feel like I don't really see bushes at beaches. Right, that's kind of interesting. Once when I was a teenager, I was trying to sleep on my parents' couch in a dark living room. My dog was sleeping on my legs and out of nowhere started growling towards the windows. I turned my phone light on to see the face of a wolf looking inside. My dog runs around, barking and growling at the window. I got up to turn on a light, and when I looked back, it was gone. The windows were probably up to 3 to 4 feet from the ground on the outside. We have coyotes in the area, so it's not impossible for them to look through windows. It didn't feel like a coyote, though. When I told someone what I saw, they told me about the Michigan Dog Man. I actually don't know what that is. Let me know in the comments if you know what that is. I've spent a lot of time in the Arizona woods, camping, walking, hunting. Walking through them at night alone, many times to and from hunting locations. Never scared, but one time I was in Springerville on the border of New Mexico hunting elk. I stayed up on this little plateau until it got too dark for me to see my rifle scope crosshairs. I started walking back down to the truck about 3 miles away. Damn, 3 miles! I was minding my business, not thinking anything scary or whatever. Then all of a sudden, I was hit with the feeling of immense dread, and the forest around me was dead silent. I got the feeling I was being watched. All the hair rose on my arms and neck, and I got instant goosebumps. Rule of the forest is if everything is quiet, you need to get the hell out of there, because that means that a predator is there. I froze in place and started looking around as the feeling increased. I slung my bolt-action rifle and got out my pistol, thinking I could pump some shots into whatever if it tried to charge. Somebody with sense. somebody with sense, yes. I did a very slow 360 with my pistol at a high ready, and I didn't see anything. Mind you, it was almost dark. My voice in my head literally told me, you need to get the fuck off this mountain right now, so I ran like hell with my pistol out. I know you're not supposed to run from predators, but that's how scared I was. I've never felt anything like that before. I ran so damn fast looking over my shoulder about the whole time. It was the fastest and furthest I've ever ran, LOL. When I got away from the area a good bit, the feeling subsided and I broke out my flashlight, had a peaceful walk back to the car, but I checked over my shoulder every few minutes. I don't know what it was, but it was something. Somebody else said, I haven't, but my father and his now deceased friend did. It's important to note that his said friend, nicknamed Law, was Navajo, and my dad was staying with him and his family. They lived near a desert. I don't remember which one, but they went out in the desert, just the two of them. I don't remember many specifics, so it's not real dramatic or anything, but they saw a person a little ways walking across the desert, not too close, but not far enough they couldn't see. He was wearing animal skin, which wasn't that odd, but they saw him transform from a man to a coyote, and immediately booked it when they thought it could hear them. That's crazy. Peek the nails, guys. I just remembered that I haven't shown you guys. I did them myself. I actually did them myself. Anyways, I also realized I haven't been great about reading the users. But this one's by lazy_table_6037 or 6037. And they said, my mom dated this guy who's big into hunting. The guy told me a story of a time he encountered something that scared him to this day and made him quit hunting altogether. That's crazy. I feel like hunters are not the type to get scared like that. Unless maybe he just really wasn't built for life for real, but I guess him and his buddies went to Alaska to hunt big game. They had stopped at some place to get supplies, and I guess one of the locals had warned them to stay away from this area, especially at night. And that's how you know, once again, if the locals are telling you there's something in these fucking woods, there's something in the fucking woods. They had to go through or close to the area to get where they needed to hunt, so one of the guys asked why they shouldn't be in the area. The man simply and swiftly replied, just don't. Once again, if it's at the point where they can't talk about it, that shit's listening to you as you speak. Like, he thought it was weird and brushed it off, seeing how they wouldn't be specifically in that area at night if they needed to camp. Also, they had their weapons too, so with all that they hit it out. So I guess they had issues with the area, had extreme weather which caused them a detour, so they found themselves in the area the locals had warned them about. Nightfall came and the fire was lit. They started talking about eating snacks, then it was getting late, so when the guy went to the tent to sleep and the others sat by the fire, I guess not long after, they heard screeching or wailing noises coming from the dark woods. It seems far, but the harder they listened, the closer it seemed to get, and fast. The guy that had gone to bed first got his gun and walked out of the tent to see what the fuck it was. The screeching sound got louder and closer, so he fired off a couple rounds carelessly into the dark woods, then it stopped. Then I guess what happened the next day was they started to feel like whatever it was circling them. So I guess they started firing all around, kind of like the movie Predator. Careless, I know, but yeah. I guess that went on all night. When they all passed out, all of their guns were gone. All their stuff shredded, the trees around them, and had claw marks. Okay, so their stuff was shredded, the trees around them had claw marks, and then he said they were only 3 deep claw marks, like the thing ran and clawed the tree. They said no tracks of any sort, so they left fast and told everyone. This is from another deleted user from a year ago. I'm a little late to the party, but back in 2019, I went on a mission trip with my old church's youth group to Montana. I've never been to Montana. I feel like I don't hear anything about Montana. We went on a Native American reservation for 2 to 3 weeks. It was right before I started my freshman year of high school, and everyone was around that age. and it was getting close to sundown, and we decided to play Manhunt. I've never played Manhunt in my life. I actually have no idea what that is. I promise. I swear on my life. The area of the reservation we were on had an open field that was surrounded by the woods, and I decided to go as far as I could. Idiot. Is it like hide and seek? Because it sounds like it is. I was hiding, and I heard one of my friends who was on my team calling my name, and it sounded far away, but in the opposite direction of our camp setup. Y'all are gonna have to excuse my posture for this video, honestly. I started going towards them, and I kept hearing it, but it constantly sounded far away. I kept going until I saw a decrepit deer. I was about 150 yards away from the camp at this point, and I turned around and booked it without looking back. By the time I got back to the camp, I saw everybody doing their own thing, and I went up to the person who I heard calling me, and they said that they stopped playing 10 minutes before I came back, and they just thought I was in the bathroom at one of the porta potties. Until I heard of the creatures we're talking about, I had no true explanation behind what happened, and I still don't know 100%. My husband lived on the Navajo reservation for a while. He was packing his bags at night and saw someone moving towards him at inhuman speed on all fours. He also heard a lot of nights walking and nails on the roof of their shack that they were staying in. That's so scary. I'm like imagining, like, my dad's house specifically has like that kind of ceiling with like the shingles. Okay, this was posted to r/paranormal by user Xander, spelled XANDYR 101, and this was 6 years ago, and he said, my experience with the creatures that shan't be named. First off, I have told this story before in a public setting around 2008. I was living in Louisiana at the time and was called into Coast to Coast AM, what does that mean, and told this story to George Noory, which was a pretty cool experience. I've also never heard of whoever that is. I don't have a whole lot of time to tell some of the details, so you'll be getting the unedited version, so to speak. It happened somewhere between 1997 and 1999. I was in my late teens, and we were living in New Mexico, up near the Four Corners. My parents were pastors at a local church in a very small town. We had lived outside of the town, sort of out in the middle of nowhere, and there were a few houses sprinkled around us. Surrounded was, at least where there was no houses, there was some brush and a lot of desert. Okay, I don't know if it's just me, that made zero sense to me. Ever since we moved there, the locals had told us about skin creatures. Cheers. I'm hungry. Even people in the church warned us about them. One guy in the church swore up and down that when he was a truck driver, he saw one in his human form running alongside his truck when he was going about 80 miles per hour. But since I didn't witness it, I just took his word. I had heard so many different tales on the origins, both from the locals and Native Americans. There was a Native American who went to our church, who still held on to his Navajo beliefs, who told me what I had assumed to be a more accurate description. He told me that when people of his tribe had a child out of incest, the tribe leaders took the baby out into the desert to be raised by wolves. The wolves would raise it, and it would become a skin creature, having the powers to turn into anything, animals, humans, etc. The story fascinated me. He just seemed to know for sure that this was an accurate tale. Then he warned me to never whistle at night, which I thought was pretty weird, but I never did until one night. I take back everything I said about this person being smart. That is an idiot move. Rookie move. It was in the fall, around 11 at night. Sorry, my mouth is making sounds and it's bothering me. I was in my bedroom, which was the furthest room from anyone in the house, and near the garage, watching TV or playing PlayStation. My mother was in her bedroom. My dad was at the church studying, as he always did, till around midnight. My brother had a friend over that night, and they were going to spend the night on the back patio, which was a long rectangular room with screen windows all down it. I love it when my bottom eyelashes look long. Like I said, I was in my bedroom minding my business when my brother and his friend come banging on my door. Annoyed, I opened the door, and my brother, who is 4 years younger than me, and his friend were both frightened. My brother said as they were in the patio goofing off, they heard someone walking around in the backyard and saw what looked like to be the top of a, quote, white bald head walk by the screen windows. Now, normally I would believe my brother, since he would never make this stuff up, but his friend was a huge liar and had told tall tales about having been to Mars, even showing us the red dirt. Of course, by this time, I had experienced a lot of paranormal stuff, but I was still skeptical. Bravely and annoyed, I grabbed my jacket and a flashlight, and the three of us went to the patio. It was creepy at night, but it always was, because it was always so dark, and the only light came from a nearby lamppost a few yards down the street. Our backyard was insanely small except for the right-hand side of it, which was a bit bigger but held a trampoline which took up the better part of it. Shout out to trampolines. I had one when I lived in the fucking country. I had a trampoline, and it was really nice. And except we didn't have the netting around it for most of the time we had it, so it was definitely low-key a health hazard. We stepped out into the patio, my flashlight shining around the yard, but saw nothing. That was when I started hearing the crunching of leaves coming from the front yard, so the three of us went out through the back gate to the front yard. Now, our front yard was huge. It had roughly 9 apple trees. There was even a large creepy tree in the corner of the yard near the street that I had always stayed clear of for some reason. We had a close neighbor literally on the other side of the wooden fence. It was a nice family that had a daughter about my brother's age, and they also had a bunch of chickens. Sometimes they would wander into our yard, so that is what I thought was walking around our front yard. Shining the flashlight around, of course, I couldn't see any chickens, but I did see something white walk behind a tree near the wooden fence. That was when I got very curious. Idiots, bro. The three of us walked slowly to the tree. I was being the protective big brother and kept the other two behind me. Before I knew it, I heard a loud whoosh and felt a gust of wind like something flew by us. My brother screamed out in pain. My brother always had his shirt off, which annoyed me because back then I was overweight and very self-conscious, but I noticed on his chest he had 3 long scratches across him. Scared and shocked, my brother ran back inside the house, leaving me and his friend. It all happened so quickly, but I ran towards the street where I was sure whatever it was had gone. His friend close behind me. Why would you keep following it? Once we reached the end of our property, I could hear the sound of bare feet running down the paved road. I shined my light towards the sound, but never saw anything. So I whistled some tune, and from down the road I heard the same tune whistled back at me. Intrigued, I whistled again, this time a different tune, and again the same tune was whistled back. My brother's friend started getting scared and kept trying to get me to go back inside, but I was very intrigued. I whistled for the 3rd time, and that was when very close by we heard a male voice say, "Hey kid, come here." There was no hesitation, the two of us bolted back inside. Why are you surprised? You were literally told these legends. Didn't take it seriously, and then now you find out it's true and you're all shocked, bruh? We went to go tell my mother what happened, and she was already frightened because she was telling my brother scratches on his chest. We told her what happened. My mother told us to stay inside. My mother had encountered some pretty scary paranormal things before. I need to tell those stories soon as well, so she believed us. I have never forgotten that encounter. My brother brushes it off these days, making it to be not a big deal, but I know differently, and so does my mother. It's one of the many incidents in my life that literally bothers me to this day. But that is all the time I have for you today. This is literally over an hour of footage, which is so crazy to me that I've been reading for that long. I didn't realize I had that much. I went into this thinking, like, what if I run out of stories to read? clearly that didn't happen. I actually have multiple other ones in here if anybody's interested in a part 2, which I will probably be doing. But I hope you guys liked it. I hope you liked the makeup. I will put pictures up as always. Once again, not naked, just wearing a tank top. But that has concluded the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Like and subscribe.